Meeting on the crossroads where the two forbidden subjects of politics and religion intersect. This is the Sophie Scholl Roundtable. Though today's discussion may not be so much political. There's politics involved because it involves school systems in New York which have an Indian as their mascot, being forbidden now to be used by schools, and those that have them must get rid of them. Of course, at no cost. You got to be kidding me. There's a cost involved. Well, I'm so glad that Norm is here with me today because he has delved into the subject. He had something for a paper that they refused to publish. I thought it was very insightful. So I thought I'd talk about this subject today. Why Indian mascots are forbidden to be used in New York State public education unless you're Salamanca. We might get to that one a little bit later. But Norm, you have been following what's taking place in Jamestown. Jamestown, known as the Red Raiders. I don't know what they're going to become now, but you responded to that.
I have a suggestion. They should call them the Warriors, the social justice warriors.
Exactly. The social justice warriors.
Now,
why not?
Doesn't that seem like that warrior word that they use is just a little bit... No. When we do it, we don't call it racism.
Exactly. Norm, you call them out on it again. Because the very people who like to say social justice warriors have no problem with ascribing that term to themselves, but when high school...
When we do it, we don't call it appropriation.
Yes, right. So they're guilty of violating appropriation, and yet they do it anyway.
It should be a bumper sticker. When we do it, we don't call it racism.
But that's a great point. As well as making a point, and I haven't read the article in a while that you wrote, but you mentioned that the mascot was utilized to affirm something that is virtuous or something that you would like to embrace.
Well, nobody names their sports team something that they think is negative or derogatory.
Right.
They don't name their sports team something to insult them or anyone.
Exactly.
But this point has been raised by a lot of people, but where I have a different take on it that I haven't heard a lot of other people mentioning, I've studied the prehistory, the Indians, particularly in this area, in the Northeast and so on. When the Europeans first encountered all the tribes in the Northeast, the state of warfare was pretty much a constant between all the neighboring tribes, and it was very common for them to take prisoners and burn them and torture them to death in extremely cruel and slow manner. The women and the children participated, and I'm not going to go into it because I don't even like to think about it, how horrible and cruel and brutal it was. But the thing that amazed, now not that the Europeans didn't occasionally burn people at the stake or certainly torture people, the thing that amazed the Europeans was that the victims of this torture were expected and did to stand there and not flinch, not show pain, and in fact mock their tormentors, sing songs, and crack jokes. Now these were one tough people. And now they're injured irreparably by any real or imagined insult. The Europeans couldn't break, the armies of Europe couldn't break their will and their fortitude, but the liberal academics have. Turned them into snowflakes as delicate and sensitive as the most white little college freshman you could imagine.
I think that's a great take on it, great perspective on it, which I don't think the left even sees. I mean, if you were to point that out, I wonder how they would respond.
I really doubt that the whole idea and the whole movement that the tribes have originated with them. I think that they got the idea from the white academic left.
Yeah.
I'm just a very suspicious person.
Exactly.
You know, and I mean, they have sports teams. They have one in Fredonia called the Hillbillies.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I grew up on a farm out in the rural areas. You know, people called me farmer and hillbillies, and somehow I failed to recruit government retribution on these people. I was distracted by more serious problems.
Yeah. The leftists have too much time on their hands thinking about these kinds of things.
And I like not just country music, but early music that was often called hillbillies. Well, some of those artists, a lot of them kind of resented that, or more than kind of resented that term. Okay, I can understand that. But you know, the government didn't get involved.
Yeah.
There weren't any boycotts. They weren't able to muster any protests or demonstrations. And those poor adult men managed to live through those awful insults.
Oh, I love the way in which Norm
microaggressions, you know?
Yeah,
if it's so micro, maybe you should just ignore it.
Right. Right.
You know, I mean, isn't that something to do with adulthood?
Exactly. Exactly. We're making men into Peter Pans and other childlike figures.
But the thing is, it advances somebody's career.
Yes.
Somebody has figured out how to make money over it. Somebody has found out how to get votes. Somebody has found out how to feel important.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody that probably desperately needs some far out, unlikely reason to feel important.
And unfortunately, the state school boards go along with it. Now, granted, if they don't do it, I guess it would cost them millions.
And I keep thinking about what that money could do if you divided it up between the historical societies in Chautauqua County.
Yeah, because, as you just talked about what it was like back when, that historical time, I have a feeling that 75, 80% of people don't even realize that. Because I think today, in which modern people think all the Indians were together as one, they never had conflict. They just all got along. And we, the white men, came in and disturbed everything.
Oh, there's all kinds of crazy ideas about the Indians, like anything else in history or anything else, period. You know, the human mind cannot deal with reality at the fundamental level. It's far too complex. All we think in is shortcuts, stereotypes, modules, cliches. That's all we can handle. That's all we have. The equipment that we have will handle. And there are people who know how to manipulate these.
Especially manipulate through emotions rather than thought and rationale and reason.
Heavens sakes, you know, Thomas Edison allegedly said 5% of the people think, 10% of the people think they think, 85% of the people would rather die than think. Well, the older I get, the more apparent that is.
I know. Which one of the reasons why we do this is to get people to think. And Norm is very good at doing just that. I think we'll chop it off right here until another time to join us once again on the Sophie Scholl Roundtable. Thanks, Norm.
Thank you for inviting me.